Our vision is to, kind of vision, mission, everything is to at least address 10 million households. We've not done anything fancy in terms of whatever we do, we've just kept things very simple. 20% of women only are part of the entire, deposits in the country. There's a lot of emphasis on financial inclusion. People who are working, they are smart enough to, differentiate between boys and men.
Hello and welcome everyone to yet another episode of Startup Story Spotlight. This is your host Lata, and this is a platform where we invite startup various founders, investors, and market leaders to share their insightful journey with us. Joining with me on today's episode is the founder of Swara Fincare, Mr. Dev Verma. Swara is an NBFC, a non-banking financial company for the underbanked population of India, mainly in rural and semi-urban areas. And we'll learn more about it from the man himself. But Dave, thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. Very excited to have you. Dave, what I want to ask you to start with is you're working for the rural and the semi-urban population of India, right? Most of them are underbanked. What does, in your perspective, the financial landscape look like in these areas, and what gaps your company Swara Fincare is looking to fulfill in these areas?
Hi Lata, excited to be part of this, and I look forward to a great conversation. So let me start by just throwing up some numbers to give you a perspective, and these are all published numbers. So we all know that a large population of India, close to 600 million people are in the villages, and if you look at the number of villages, it's almost about close to 6.5 lakh of India is in the villages. So obviously, uh, the entire focus of whether it's the government or over the last decades that you see has been in this segment, because it has a direct impact on the economics of the country. So there is a lot of emphasis, a lot of development, a lot of banks, nationalized banks. You have now, of course, there's a digital trust. If you look at the landscape, everybody is talking fintech. So that's the next big thing to ensure that this is the biggest change in the landscape that we can talk about. So there are various models now in terms of business correspondence. There are kiosks, and now you have the Googles, the Paytms. So there's a lot of action that is kind of happening, and there's a lot of emphasis on the development there. And I think that's where Swara also fits in. Whereas we are part of that journey where we see a huge transition of this huge population, which is currently underbanked, or the rural pocket that we may talk about. So how we've approached it in this entire scheme of things, we're focusing on certain clusters. So for example, uh, you have say agri, dairy farming. Then you have another cluster which is your typically shopkeepers, kirana shops. So we've kind of broken this entire piece down so as to go a little deeper into these pockets, and address it in a more effective manner. So that's how typically we've kind of picked up unique products for each of these segments. We've kind of looked at the credit needs very separately for each of these segments. The team members, there's a mix of technology that we have used to leverage and ensure that the uptake is simpler for them, and it's not complicated. So we are part of that ecosystem, and we for us, this is the future, this is the critical play, and this particular segment of 600 odd million people, 6.4 lakh villages is where Swara comes in, and we want to play a very big role in that conversion, from that moving them to a developed situation. So that's typically in the space that Swara is in.
Okay, and Dev, you mentioned a lot of things about, let's say, financial literacy, the credit needs, and then technology that everyone is talking about. And we'll dwell into this in the next few minutes. But before we move forward, Dev, uh, some of us, we've had exposure to banks from the time we were born, right? Some of us might find it hard to imagine being there without a bank, right? So we might not understand what is underbanked population, how much it actually is in India, and the term financial inclusion, what does that mean? So if you could break down those points for us very quickly.
Yeah, sure. So, see, if you look at again the landscape in India, India has the largest, in terms of numbers, the largest unbanked population in the world. Now, you could say it's a result of India being a very, one of the largest populated countries in the world, but that's a, different aspect to it. India has about, close to about, 1.9 million people who are still, unbanked or don't have bank accounts. Now, even if you kind of dig deeper into the people having bank accounts, if you look at the deposits per bank accounts, even that is on the lower side, and that clearly reflects on the fact that we are a developing economy. Also, if you look at the unbanked population or and that landscape, and you break it into rural and urban, whereas while 60% of the population is in the rural space, but the percentage of deposit is hardly about 10-12%. Whereas on the contrary, the urban population is about 12%, but their deposits in the banks is 50-60%, which clearly shows a huge divide there. So that is how you can say that uh, you know uh, how the unbanked population in India is and how big it is. And coming to the other part, there's a lot of correlation between financial inclusion and this huge gap that we're talking about. Having said that, I mean there is a huge difference. If you look at the last 10-15 years, the percentage has gone from 35 to about 78-80%. So there is a significant jump in terms of people having bank accounts, things like the Jan Dhan account, more banks penetration, and more financial literacy moving into the rural pockets. So that landscape is definitely changing now. Financial inclusion, as the term suggests, is a very simple meaning to say that this particular population or segment needs to have easy access to financial products, simplified, and it's not just having a bank account. It means all the products could be savings, could be business loans, could be insurance, and all forms of financial products available at their vicinity or doorstep. So that they can be part of this entire development process. They can be a large contributor to the progress of the economy. The entire uh, you know objective of the government to be one of the largest superpowers in the world, 5 trillion economy. So all this has a very significant piece in it, and that's why if you look around yourself, whether it's in social media or things that's happening around you development, there's a lot of emphasis on this segment. There's a lot of emphasis on financial inclusion. Today, there are several types of institutions, right from microfinance to NBFC banks, and now, of course, the digital, fintech companies who are, trying to address this landscape. So, financial inclusion, to my mind, is something that I think even at a G20 level, the leaders, the one of the key agendas globally is, financial inclusion, because that's a clear reflection of economic prosperity and growth. And so that's my understanding and take on financial inclusion, very simplistically put.
Understood. And quite a percentage you actually mentioned, from 30% to 70%, how we went. Do you do you believe it's majorly the effort of the government, of the ruling government in India, that's led to this?
So it has a large role to play in, because ultimately these are policy level decisions that are directed. Now, I think it all started from during demon time. There was a clear impact. So there was a policy level decision, and all the institutions participated. So while there was a effort and a policy level, direction from the senior bureaucrats and government, but I think all the institutions participated, understood it had a direct impact, implication on every single individual and institution who are in the country and in that space. So I think ultimately the execution boils down to the institutions who are working in those areas. So there were, I personally remember that there were, every bank had put up camps in the village areas. They were assisting in terms of getting the accounts up, and the government was taking updates on how many accounts have got activated and things like that. So I think it was a big humongous effort by the entire machinery. So it was a collective thing, but yes, of course, a lot of emphasis from the government. Yes.
Understood. Moving on. Financial inclusion we're talking about. Let's understand how the journey has evolved in India in financial inclusion space. So, how has it evolved in the last few years, and where is it leading to in the next 5-10 years? And what role do you think you want to play as a company in this in the next few years?
So see, like I mentioned, several data points that I just mentioned, in terms of how the construct is today, whether it's on the rural side in terms of the banking, the fact that there is so much happening in this segment, to promote, and get more people under the financial inclusion umbrella. So even in that same journey, even if you look at the last decade or 10, 15, there have been several, I don't have the exact percentages, but there is a huge shift from in terms of urbanization. That is one. If you look at uh, GDP contributions, which is now about, I think, 28%. If you look at export contribution, which is now in excess of 50%. Uh, if you look at the unbanked population, like I mentioned, it's kind of doubled. So the infrastructure, now you have BC points, you have CSC service centers. So in all aspects, I think a large portion of it has to do with the overall penetration of several institutions in the space, overall improvement in infrastructure, and I think that's where Swara also comes into play. Where even today, if although we are a startup, but we have 25% of our clients who are new to credit. So that itself throws up a lot of things. We have different models. Like for example, we are working in the hilly states of Uttarakhand. So we approach it different. Our credit parameters for that segment is very different, unlike some of the other states in the plains, depending on the clusters and things like that. So you know our objective is to give confidence to this segment while we are onboarding them. Like I said, have customized kind of products, have the assessment on the credit variances, make it customized for that segment. So, Swara is in that, we have the wherewith in terms of technology. So we are first, the new to customers who are there, first time exposure to technology, we are hand holding them. We're helping them to make the first digital transaction, take that first baby step. So, Swara, it's not just about, for us, it's not just disbursing a loan, but, we go a step extra to, ensure that we can onboard those clients and be a part of that, financial inclusion journey. So that's how, we approach this entire, piece.
Okay. Uh, few points I could pick from that, and of course we'll be talking about that. But let's talk about numbers first. And it's really, I really have to admire the fact that you're so committed to bringing up the underprivileged. Very admirable to see that, and we do need that in the country at such a crucial time. India is building a great growth story, and we'd love everyone to be a part of it, of course. But let's also talk about numbers, Dave. Uh, about your impact. What impact has by this time Swara has been able to do quantitatively If you could just drop down some points for us.
So, see, we've been operational for about 15 months. The first point itself was like uh, 25% are new to credit, so that's one big, focus area for us. We are very proud to call ourselves as a tech-enabled impact NBFC, because we are very clear on our vision and direction. The other points is we are in 4 states. We are about 40 districts, out of which in those 40 districts, we've specifically chosen about 200 odd villages, which are, on the lower spectrum of financial inclusion or are underbanked, so that's one piece of it. Uh, the other things are also, we are like 100%, we've been able to do 100% digital collection. So, like I said, we've facilitated that process. We've given the confidence, we've taught them, educated, we've helped them to, upgrade to smartphones, for example, have basic transactions. We have our own customer app where we're trying to give information, getting them used to seeing those kind of features so that next time, they can easily move towards the digital side. So a lot of, 15,000 households currently is what I would say we have directly been able to work closely with, and that number keeps, going. So for us, the focus is very clear as to where we want to, kind of operate, what are the markets we want to operate, what are the numbers that we are looking at. Our vision is to, kind of vision, mission, everything is to at least address 10 million households in this particular segment. So that is how, we are stacked up.
Okay, and because you mentioned that you're also educating them, right?
Yes.
So I'm very curious, because this is an interesting space. You're not, you're dealing with some very different kind of clientele, right? In these rural areas. How do you train your team on that? I'm very curious to know that.
So there are several things around it. First and foremost is that we try and take people who are at least from that state or district, so that uh, you don't, for example, say a South Indian coming and staying in a UP market, it will be a tough, and vice versa. So idea, the first starting point is that, there is a cultural mix, so that the staff, the starting point is the staff is, used to the culture and the geography, the demographics of that area. So that's our first starting point. The second piece is, before any business transaction or the person moves to the field, we ensure, or train them on hygienes. It's simple things like dressing well, speaking properly, staying neat and clean, disciplined. So we tell them that, and most of them appreciate and respect that. So that's the second piece. The third piece is, of course, again, a detailed training on why are we doing this, what is Swara about, what is the impact story, why are we doing a particular transaction or a product in a particular fashion. Give them a background. The other pieces, a lot of them are also owners in the organization. We've given them shares and ESOPs, stock options, so that, there is a sense of ownership. Uh, we've also, since we are, we've been in this industry for a while, and most of our people that we have picked are a good percentage are experienced people. There is a percentage of freshers. So we've picked and chosen people who are, kind of willing to work with us, and in this space as a startup, who are, keen on this segment. So we've breaking it. We've not done anything fancy in terms of whatever we do. We've just kept things very simple. We focused on the basics of this, entire model, and it's yielding good results because, we've kind of also ensured that come what may, their salaries are protected, and, they have incentives. There is a lot of emphasis on the quality aspect. It's not just about incentivization of business. So we give a lot of weightage on the quality aspect of it. So, and there is a continuous upgrade of skills, training, and ensuring that the segment that we are addressing is we are able to build that trust and confidence. So that's how we've approached our training.
And I'm sure empathy definitely has a big role to play in all of that, right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, yes, yes.
I think it all flows from the top management to the lower level, right? All of the same attributes.
Well, you have to kind of walk the talk. It's been a philosophy with all of us, and you just can't. I think these days people who are working, they are smart enough to differentiate between boys and men. And it's important to kind of lead by example, set the tone, so that people are more serious about what you mean.
Actually, interesting that how you brought about the topic that people know the difference between boys and men. It honestly that said a lot. Uh, so wow, interesting. Actually, that's quite a famous topic now. People are really discussing about those, and they really know. People really know what's happening, right? People are really aware, and that's a
Yeah.
good part.
Yes,
So
yes.
awesome. So they tell us what challenges you faced while setting up your NBFC, and how did you overcome them? For anybody looking to start one as well, and I'm sure we need more, as many as possible. So advise them how can they do so.
So I think I don't know how much I can advise, but I can surely give my experience. But see, for us, Swara, we are three of us, four of us actually. We've been good friends, and for us, it was more about timing. So one of my colleagues used to say that for any startup, if the sailing is very smooth, means something is wrong. And someday, if you have to write a book, or a script, there has to be some action, turbulence, and in the end, the villain is beaten up and the hero, kind of comes out, all gallo, So that's, I think we're probably riding the same wave. For us, it was about timing. It was COVID time, so obviously things were not in our control. The regulators were working with minuscule, staffing. So it took a little time, took about 9 months. When that happened, similar impact was on the funding side. We were, to receive a large sum of funding, which kind of didn't happen. So we had to get back to the blackboard, rework our entire operations, our plan, business plan, basis the funds that we could raise on our own, and that's how we started brick by brick. We started last year in March, so we're about 15 months old. We picked up one at a time, started with small, started with one branch, one market, picked up the first three, four people who were, you can say, our man Fridays, or go-to people who were willing to stick their necks on a startup like us, and take that risk and walk that journey with us in the entrepreneur mode and spirit. And they continue to be a key, member of our team, helping us, grow. And as we speak, we've been able to launch in, four states, working with 21. Now we have, 200 people. We've been able to build technology, shape up the business in a good sense. And a few things that, of course, we got a lot of support from industry and peers. So one thing that clearly stands out as a lesson is that, no matter what you do, ultimately it's the goodwill that you've been able to create over the years, your network, your colleagues in the industry, ultimately they do come and help you out. So that's when we had hardly disbursed about 4 or 5 lakhs. We had one institution giving us, 2 crores in debt. Uh, so that set the ball rolling. It gave confidence to other lenders, and a lot of our industry colleagues came out and supported us. Some of my my peers, my colleagues, and so that's how brick by brick we built it. And for us, the icing on the cake is that within 16 months of operation, we are breaking even, which is unheard of in the NBFC sector. So for us, I mean, it's been something that I think we've set the foundation, and yeah, God has been great, and we feel grateful, and we've been able to kind of at least it's still the beginning. I think there's still a very long way to go, but at least yeah, we've been able to kind of withstand the initial so-called storm.
So, people and technology and connections have really worked for you. Understood.
Yes.
So, Dev, I'll go a little offside, and I'll actually ask you this: how does someone who's right now in any corporate culture, but let's say later on wants to do something of his own, or even doesn't want to, how does that person build these important relations with their colleagues, or simply network? How do you network the best way? What has worked for you, if you can advise to others as well?
I can speak for myself. For me, networking does not mean that you go out of the way and consciously, you go to a cocktail or it's on social media, or it's not something that I've pushed myself to do. It just happens as a result of your circle, your work. It could be, for me, I was, say, for example, I was part of the sports team in all of the corporate organizations that I worked. So you networked in a different way. Uh, in your day-to-day life, over a period of time, you've helped people consciously. It's not that you've done it just to network. You've done things, I think it's all part of the process of whether as a professional and in your personal life, where you connect with people and you genuinely have done things in the right manner and you've done it honestly. So that for me, that has worked, because I've been honest to myself and whatever I've done. And of course, now you have social media, there are a lot of platforms, there are industry gatherings. That of course does play a very important role, where you participate in those programs, you interact, you're part of the system, and that's where one leads to the other. You get introduced, there are several people from the same industry. In today's time, I think it has become very important to be part of those kind of forums. So I think it's a mix of your personal approach. You might be in the best of positions, but yeah, if you are not approachable, you're not giving back, people will obviously treat you in the same fashion.
Well, so the bottom line is be yourself, and you'll attract those circles, and later on, probably in some way you'll get it back, and unconsciously, right?
Yes.
Understood. Okay, we were also talking about technology. That I said we'll talk about. Give us some instances of how you're leveraging technology at Swara Fincare to reach maximum number of people and to enhance your services as well.
So, see, today everybody is talking about fintech technology, and of course, we are also part of it, but there is a little difference. We are more on the phygital side, because for a simple reason that there are certain parts where we are totally, tech enabled. Now, for example, let me say that my entire disbursements to clients happen, directly to accounts. My entire collections is digital, so I have all the options available to my clients, whether it is through banking, eNash, through a Paytm, Google Pay, any of those platforms. Our own app has a payment option where the client can just click one button and the screen opens up, and one more click and the payment is done. So all our loan cards have a unique QR code, so they can make payments sitting in the house. So uh, even in our paperless disbursement that we do, it is biometric based or Aadhaar based. All the options are there. Uh, so we've been able to develop technology in our back-end operations to build those efficiencies. Now, why I say we are phygital is because there is still a large population of clients that we address where I cannot onboard them totally through, say, a smartphone or sitting in Delhi, onboard them totally digitally. Because one, like I had mentioned, some of them are new to credit, some of them don't have paperwork, their banking habits are erratic, Let's say a simple shopkeeper might not have bills, might not have GST. A lot of cash transactions still happen there. So how do you assess from a credit perspective? So we have a good mix, I would say, hybrid model where that touch point is maintained. At the same time, we are able to deliver a faster turnaround time because our backend is totally tech enabled. All the integrations are there. Secondly, is that once I've onboarded this client in this manner, for the next loan, I don't need to do anything physical. Then there is a digital transformation that has happened with that specific client. However, having said that, even we are in the process of developing pure, fintech or digital products, which we will cater to those segment like shopkeepers who can be onboarded, who are tech savvy or have smartphones. So we will do that digitally, and one segment which is yet to move to this digital space, we will continue this process. So we've approached it in a hybrid fashion, so that we can address the entire population. And ultimately, the aim is this entire customer base of us, we start helping them to, transform and take this journey from manual to digital. So it's part of the financial and digital literacy that, we are participating in. So that's how we've gone about our entire, piece on technology.
Understood. Uh, so from what I understood, what Swara is basically working on is doing is trying to touch every life possible in every customizable format possible.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think we need that. That's good to know. Awesome. Let's talk about a broader economic perspective, right? So what all of this financial inclusion is having on the broader economic situation in our country? How is it helping in that?
Yeah. So I had mentioned earlier that see, I think for any economy in the world, ultimately it is, the financial inclusion, uh, index ultimately that kind of, helps to understand the progress of a particular economy. I had mentioned that even today, if you look at it, uh, financial inclusion and also, that MSME sector that everybody is talking about, a lot
Right.
of these, if you break it up further, 80-90% of that is the micro entrepreneur, or the small entrepreneur which is in the deep pockets. That is the kind of breakup. The larger ones are hardly 5, 5, 6, 10% who are the larger MSME
Right.
folks. If you break the entire gap also down, there is a gap for about, as per the government data, about 25 to 30 trillion rupees is the gap today to address this population.
Oh,
Uh, yeah. And this MSME sector, like I said, 50% of exports, 28% of GDP. Now the government is focused on, upping this percentage, exports beyond 50%, uh, contribution of MSME from 28 to 50% plus. A lot of this can be achieved through this financial inclusion.
right.
That is why this segment is so important from any perspective. 20% of women only are part of the entire, deposits in the country. There are a lot of barriers there for them to go into a branch. They are not comfortable doing that. They are not, you know, there is lack of confidence. What will happen to my money? So there are a lot of barriers there, which, we are also trying to be one of those, you know, uh, so-called, small pieces where we are trying to, bring in our piece of contribution there in this entire piece. So, but like I said, nutshell, I think the future of India, and for us to, reach from here to that level that we are talking about, this piece is the most critical piece for us.
Fair. And because you mentioned women, I'm very passionate about that as well. But you mentioned about there's so much resistance from them because they have certain things in their own mind, right? And you mentioned about confidence. They have lack of confidence and also lack of confidence within themselves about moving up to
Yes.
somebody, and you want to deposit. So it's even, let's say, a communication barrier as well from their side. And
Yeah.
but having said that, I'm sure you and even I've seen myself the work going around in that case. So we have floor offices, and so we have floor managers in so many banks. So on an average, we're seeing the work done in that aspect, right? So
Yes.
happy to see that happening. We'll talk about you now, Dev. We've talked a lot about industry, company. As a founder, you're working in a very interesting space, and you already know that very critical space for the growth of the country. As a founder, what has been your most fulfilling moment so far?
So, honestly, this what I was just, mentioning that for me to, see Swara coming up brick by brick from where we, started, uh, you know, uh, being able to get the first employee to work for us, seeing the space, evolve for us, the team settle down, people in the industry acknowledging us, difficult time to kind of launch, lot of negative sentiments in the market, uh, just post COVID kind of a, scenario where we started, launched. Uh, but yeah, once you look back at the journey and then you see, that you've been you made an honest effort, it's been step by step. You've not, jumped the gun. You've not taken shortcuts. You've been patient. We've had days when we did not know how to survive the next month. Uh, you know, it was not just about us founders. It was about the other 150, 200 people who had, given up everything and joined a startup like us, that faith in us. So for us, it was more about credibility, our own, skin in the game, whether, and we did not take salaries to ensure that at least our field was not impacted in any manner. So small things that we did. We took up a small office, but one thing was consistent, that we didn't do anything fancy. We just kept our head on our shoulders, and we just took each day as it came. Like any startup, we've had our share of challenges, but we just kind of stuck on, and we were very fortunate that we got a lot of support. People, we were able to reach out to people, and they were kind of they bought our entire model and our story, and that we were making an honest effort to get this going. We created differences in people, our technology, our portfolio quality, our impact in a particular segment. So we created those small differences. All of us were from the industry, so we knew what we were getting into. So we were able to build that confidence, and now when you look back, this journey so far, it has been very fulfilling, because I think somewhere we've created a good foundation for ourselves to kind of take off.
Foundation. And I love the fact that you talk about taking one thing at a time, making it brick by brick. Very underestimate, what's the word? People don't really recognize the value of those two statements, but very, very important. Brick by brick, and one thing at a time, so that you're very
Yes.
concentrated. And I think you've built on that, which really proves that where we could see the journey going forward, right? uh Dev, you worked in several roles, right? You worked in multiple cities as well, but I think 2 years or so back you decided to give it a break to pursue your passion for village homestay, which is, by the way, very interesting. uh, I actually got very excited to see that myself. And you already built a mountain home with your wife, right? I think in Uttarakhand, I'm sorry, it's called
Yes,
Arish, right?
yes, Arish, yeah.
And people should definitely check that out. I checked that myself. Very pretty, very pretty, really. Uh, so I think you've had your fair share of struggles. You've had your fair share of living everywhere, being with people, communicating with them. What, according to you, uh, is the philosophy of life? What do you think matters at the end of
So, see, I've been very fortunate, where because of work and also personal travels, I was able to, I think I've traveled to about 24 states in the country, and
Wow.
most of it, a lot of it by road, traveling to, remote villages, working, setting up businesses, distribution, things like that. So that travel bug was always there. That is, probably the starting point, and of course, a bit of the background where I've done most of my schooling in Assam and Shillong, and being from that part. So the hill thing was always there. Whenever I got an opportunity, I would, rush to the hills, and me and my wife, we would always, stay in villages, village homestays, things like that. That gave us a sense of the culture. That's the best way to explore, the country. Go deep, stay with the local folks, understand, and that's how we made really good friends. And we gradually over the years, with the help of the villagers, we kind of built our, homestay, and we did some farming, and that's when I took a break to kind of set it up. But it was also a time for me to kind of, recharge, regroup. Not that I had a, challenge doing that during my regular work, but it's just that, yeah, I just felt that it was more about the right timing. And that's when Swara also came into being, and then we started working there. And what I have, even now, when I get a chance, I go there for a few days on and off. Uh, and 2-3 hours of working over there is equivalent to 8-9 hours of working here. And the productivity is amazing because it's, you're absolutely, there's no disturbance, peaceful, and everything there. So for me, I don't dwell too much on, life and, all that thing. For me, it's just, I have always believed in karma. It's the actions ultimately that, matter in the end. And somewhere, it comes a circle, and I have been very fortunate because what you see is the end product, but it's been a huge task to get things moving. There was no road, nothing. We are on the ridge to get transportation up, to even quit a job. I had a high profile job, a high profile company, a high paying, job. People thought I'm mad. People thought I have been sacked. You have to deal with a lot of things people don't like, cannot, of course. And they also say that, they want to do some things and you've done it. And I always feel that, there's no harm in having best of both worlds. Yeah. And the important thing is, there are two things I'm doing in my, life today, and I enjoy doing both of those things. So that way, if you have to become an entrepreneur, or something, then you might as well do something which you're passionate about. So these are two things that I'm passionate about, and I've just kind of stuck to a plan. Uh, Even it's very similar to how Swara is, brick by brick, slowly. There are times, it's not easy to be doing things in the hills. You need a lot of patience. Uh, so you just, kind of hang on, and go along with it. And of course, it's incomplete. You can't do it without the support of your family. My wife, she's equally passionate about what I'm doing. So that helps, if uh, you get that support from your family, my friends, all of them. In fact, uh, it's a great place to meet, because I have met several interesting people who've come there. They are bankers, they are analysts. Recently, a cricket analyst came there. There are people from all walks of life coming there. And on a funny note, two of them have also invested in Swara. So, so it kind of works both ways, so it's a very fulfilling and a very humbling experience.
Wow, interesting. I'll say this again, guys. Definitely check out Arish. I loved that place, and I can't say it enough for real. And there's a proof. You can see how many people have visited, and it's awesome. But Dave, just last question. I swear, this is the last question. People are moving away from the cities now, right? More than ever, I think. There's more movement towards the city as well, of course, from rural areas. But then people have started moving away from the cities as well, going back to their hometowns, or like you, setting up a village homestay. And I see a lot of people around me also talking about how they want to work for the next 5-10 years, and then get into farming for the rest of their life, and just do that. So this is quite an interesting dynamic that's happening. uh, can you paint a picture of what's exactly happening? Why is that happening? And because you've been one as well, help us understand what the dynamics of, why is this happening?
So, see, I have been doing this for almost like 15, 20 years, and of course, the homestay has come up recently. But this entire concept has suddenly shot, above the through the roof after COVID, where everybody realized that they should have a second home. So either people are rushing to the beaches or to the hills. So there is a lot of construction that is happening. So that's a little scary because some of these places cannot support that kind of, the infrastructure cannot support that kind of a development. So personally, I'm not too happy with that
Okay.
because there are a lot of people who are just constructing mindlessly, and you can see, things that happen during monsoons and so forth. So
Yeah.
one has to be a little conscious, that is one. Secondly, it's a great idea if you can, get your hands dirty and, be with Mother Earth. It's a great thing to get into farming, homestay. But my only point is, as long as you mix into that ecosystem, and don't damage it. There are people who are just chopping trees and things like that. There are a lot of there. It is challenging. It looks really great. A lot of people have done it, and people continue to do it. But yeah, from the outside it looks fun, but it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work. More importantly, it needs a mindset, because suddenly you're in the wilderness with nothing around you. There's no malls, no people around. You should be okay with that, and you really have to have a good schedule in place. You need to have good hobbies, and you should be able to get your hands dirty there. I work in the farms myself with my team, so I'm okay with that. So you have to be ready to do things on your own. So uh, it's a big mindset, requirement, and of course you do need money. And lastly, good financial planning. A lot of people have taken that step and come back because of lack of financial planning. So
Right.
so so those things are there.
Very well understood. I hope everybody got the point. Without disrupting the environment, if you can and if you want to, and with proper finance, if you want to, I think a lot of us can. And that's awesome. On that sweet note, we'll be ending this conversation. Thank you so much, Dave, for joining with us on this. It was insightful having this conversation, and we look forward to having you again. And for everybody watching, stay tuned. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Thank you so much.